And today we are going to, I'm just sharing the screen and probably we start. Okay. Okay. All right. So we have done all this. If anybody has any confusion, please let me know. We are going to do this today, which is the test case document slash development slash, you can also call it as creation. You can also call it as creation. So guys, I want to just tell everybody that this might there could be cases, or there might be requirements from the company that we use a tool to write the test cases. Not necessarily we will be using the Excel to write the test cases. We can always use a tool to do it, and most of the companies, probably the 80% of the companies, use a tool to write the test cases. But then still, even if you're writing in the tool, the format will be pretty much the same. We are going to study how a test case has been written, how a normal test case you can write a test case. So the contents will be the same that you're going to write, just that the version history and the versioning part and the ID part and those all parts are automatically done with the tools that we have. But then when you're doing it in Excel, then you have to do everything manually. This is the difference. All right. So can you guys, I had shared this PPT and I've also shared the Excel of test cases. Can you can you see the Excel? Yes, yes. Thank you for confirming. You can see the Excel also. Okay. Someone says no. Can you not see the Excel? I have already shared the Excel which talks about the test case. Can you see now, guys? Okay, very good. All right. So let's start writing the test cases. How do you write a test case? So a test case is something when you get a BRD, or when you have an SRS, or when you have the BRD and you have gone through the BRD, you have understood the details, you know what you have to do, you have understood the details, meaning आपको समझ में आ गया है कि आपको क्या करना है. You know that what is to be tested, what is not to be tested. You have an overview of what you are going to do. Now when you have an overview of what you're going to do, is then what happens is you have that idea that what am I going to test and all that. So how you do is you start thinking that okay, this will be my first case ID. This is a very simple test case that I have put in. The reason that I have put a very simple test case to for you guys to understand that what needs to be filled in each and every section. There has been cases where people, where people work for many years and still they don't know what to fill in the expected result, they don't know what to fill in the test steps, what to fill in the actual results, and so on. So we need to first understand, guys, that what goes into the each section. Then only you will be able to write maybe a complex test case, or maybe you will be able to test a complex scenario. ठीक है. So first test case, this is a simple one, is that I have written to verify that the user is able to create an account in Amazon. That user is able to create account in Amazon. So now suppose if you want to do shopping, if you want to start doing a shopping in Amazon, it's not that you open the Amazon and you just start doing the shopping. You can't do that. And neither if you are a first time user, the first mandatorily prerequisite for is that you have to have an account, or else you will not be able to use that website, or you will not be able to shop your stuff from there. So what do we do is, so to write the test case, usually we use this word to verify. What are we trying to do? To verify that user is able to create a account in Amazon. that the user is able to create an account in Amazon. So this is the test case name. And when you use a tool, so I'm just trying to explain the differences between this and the tool. When you create a test case using a tool, and there will be, most of the tools will have the small plus button. The plus button is what? Add. प्लस मतलब प्लस, सो ऐड करिए. तो जब आप ऐड क्लिक करेंगे, then there will be this one, then there will be a test case id which is auto generated. This test case id will be auto generated. You have to write the test case name. Now you will say that to verify that the user is able to create an account in Amazon, what could be the precondition? So a browser should be installed. Basically nothing much, a browser should be installed. You can write couple of more prerequisite means उसको करने के लिए क्या available होना चाहिए. अगर आप वो टेस्ट केस को, आपको वो टेस्ट केस लिखना है, अगर कल को आपको एग्जीक्यूट करना है, तो आपके पास क्या रिसोर्सेज अवेलेबल होने चाहिए. ठीक है. So to verify that the user is able to create an account, browser should be installed. This is the precondition. Okay, so there would be a lot of preconditions in the test cases where you have where there are complex scenarios. This is a very simple one which I have taken to explain what does at precondition and a prerequisite mean. Now we go into this one, steps numbers. So you need to write the test steps. Open a browser, and this test has steps has to be very clear, very clear and concise. Clear and concise मतलब कि अगर आपके अलावा भी किसी को यूज करना है, suppose if I have written this, guys, if I have written this and I want you people to just read and understand what it is doing, it should be that simple and that elaborated and so much in detail that if I'm not available and I've just sent these to you people, you should be able to read and understand what do I need to execute, and how do I need to execute. Two things you need to know: what do I need to execute and how do I need to execute. What यहाँ से मिलेगा to verify that user is able to create an account. How यहाँ से मिलेगा. ठीक है. How यहाँ से मिलेगा. That open a browser, open the URL, enter the below details and create account. So there will be an option as soon as you open the URL of amazon.com, there will be option of create an account. Click that. Once you click that, it will ask for your enter your name. Then you have to say what? Enter your name means आप अपना नाम वहां डालिए. Enter mobile number, enter your email, password, and then click on continue. This I have written, and this is a steps. Now expected result for each step. Expected result for each steps मतलब हर एक step के लिए expected result क्या होना चाहिए. क्या होना चाहिए. अगर मैंने ओपन ब्राउजर लिखा तो एक्सपेक्टेड मींस क्या आना चाहिए. ब्राउजर शुड बी ओपन. जनरली वी यूज द वर्ड शुड फॉर एक्सपेक्टेड. दिस शुड हैपन, दैट शुड हैपन, because we are preparing this test cases and we are preparing this all with the help of BRD, with the help of BRD and SRS. We are not writing this with the help of the URL directly. यहाँ आपके दिमाग में है ये Amazon का, but remember that not all applications will be already built and given to you. You will only have a BRD and you will only have an SRS or maybe a couple of more supporting documents to look at it and then to come back to it and then to say that okay, this is working fine, or I should be able to do this test and so on. So this is what it is. Okay. Okay. So expected is generally started with browser should be opened, Amazon website should be opened, users should be able to do this, users should be able to register and so on. Now you also need to write this actual result. Actual result is, so this part you need to leave it at the time of execution. यहाँ तक आप कब करके रखेंगे? जब आपके पास BRD आ गया है, आपके पास SRS आ गया. You need to complete this much till that. This will happen at the time of execution, means when the application is available to you, or when the build has deployed, or when the build has deployed to you people. that time this needs to be done. So that is where we say browser is opened, Amazon website is opened, user is able to enter all the mandatory and non-mandatory fields, means user is able to enter the name, user is able to enter the mobile number, user email address enter kar raha hai, and so on. And then you say the test results, pass hai, fail hai, pass hai, fail hai, and so on. This is what a test case actually looks at. Whether you do this in your tool or you write it in Excel, this is how it will look like. Sometimes after this, after test case name, there will also be something called as test case description. कभी कभी ना यहाँ पे प्री कंडीशन के साथ साथ टेस्ट केस डिस्क्रिप्शन भी होता है. सो यू कैन डिस्क्राइब इट, यू कैन, इट्स, हो सकता है कि प्री कंडीशन और प्री रिक्विजाइट नहीं हो, टेस्ट केस डिस्क्रिप्शन हो. सो इन दैट टेस्ट केस डिस्क्रिप्शन ऑल्सो यू कैन मेंशन द प्री रिक्विजाइट, that this is where to execute this test case we need the following resources available to us. So you can mention it. Description is something which tells about, description is a generic word which talks about the details, कि आप उसमें जितना details भर सकते हैं. जब आप test case कर रहे हैं तो आप उसमें जितना details भर सकते हैं आप उसमें भर सकते हैं, ठीक है. So there can be one more field which is called as test case description. टेस्ट स्टेप्स तो ठीक है, टेस्ट एक्सपेक्टेड रिजल्ट्स, एक्चुअल रिजल्ट्स, पास फेल, these are all very very important things. Okay, so I have just given an example of verify that user is able to create an account in Amazon, user is verified to user is able to log in. So now if login के लिए प्री रिक्विजाइट क्या होगा, login के लिए प्री रिक्विजाइट होगा that user should have a valid username and password available. अगर आपको लॉग इन करना है, इफ यू हैव टू लॉग इन, देन इट इज मैंडेटरी फॉर यू दैट यू ऑलरेडी हैव क्रिएटेड व्हाट, you already have created the username and password with you, isn't it? For you to have to log in into the account already, you need to have the username and password already available. So this is what user should have a valid username and password available to log in. The website should be up and running. Website should be up and running means the Amazon should work. This is my prerequisite for me to be successfully able to log in. Steps क्या होंगे? Open browser, open URL, enter username and password and click on the login button. And then browser should be open. This is expected. Amazon website should be open. When you say enter URL, enter username, user should be able to input username and password. Click on login. User should be navigated to the login page of the home page of the Amazon. And it should be displayed, hello username should be displayed at the right. In case you guys have noticed, just check that whenever you log in, your username is displayed at the right of hello with your username or whatever it is there, it is being displayed with that name. Okay, all right. So same is with the actual results. Okay, so I've just said this couple of these things, that this is how a test case looks like. So if anybody has any questions, I'm pausing for 30 seconds to help you answer any questions that we have, and then we simply move on to the defect management. We will now next study the defect management. Okay. Anyone has any questions, guys? I'm there. I'm here. Please ask me any questions related to anything. This one, if you have correctly understood the test case writing and the development, or else we move on to the next part. All right. So yeah. So if there are no questions, then we are good to start with the defect management. Can anybody say what is a defect management? Does anybody know anything regarding the defect management word? Have anybody heard this word before? What is a defect management? Yes. Looking at the defects. Yes, that is a part of defect management, correct? And what else? What else a defect management be? What else can a defect management be, guys? Fixing the defect. Absolutely right. Fixing the defect, fixing and rectifying the defect. Yes. Yes. What does it mean for a tester? What does it mean for a tester? What does that mean to us? So okay, let us first understand the meaning of defect. So guys, the simple, the meaning of defect is that whenever the functionality is not working as expected. Simple. So whenever a functionality is not working as expected, then for us it is a defect. For us, what it is? For us it is a defect. For us, it's simple that it is a defect. For me, it will be a defect. If the functionality is not working for me as expected, then it will be a defect for me. Okay. So let us look at the defect life cycle. I'm sharing the screen to understand the defect life cycle. Very, very important thing. Very important. Okay. Okay. Now have a look at the screen that I have shared, everybody. Okay. So a defect, everything has a life cycle. Like I have said, everything has a life cycle. We had the life cycle of SDLC, which we studied first day. We had the life cycle of the testing. Testing का life cycle हमने देखा. We had the life cycle of testing, right? That this is the life cycle of testing: analysis, then creation of test plan, then test case writing, then test case execution, then defect management, and then test closure. These are the high level testing life cycle. Now we are going to study about the defect life cycle. Guys, whenever there is a discrepancy in the expected versus actual, wherein आपका expected ये था और आपको actual ये मिल रहा है, ठीक है? Expected ये था और actual ये मिल रहा है, then this is called as defect, and then we raise a defect. Now raising a defect can be done in either an Excel, like I said. You can maintain a defect Excel sheet, just like the test case, wherein you write the defect ID, defect name, defect description, how to reproduce the defect. The most important thing is how to reproduce the defect and all that stuff. Or else you can directly use the tool gives us much more flexibility, as in terms that defect ID will be auto created, who has opened that defect will be auto mentioned, when was the defect created will be auto mentioned, and so on. So it gives a lot of good features and a flexibility for tracking the defects when it is logged via a tool. But then in the tool also, yes, what do we want to ask, Malav? Maybe you can just type it. I will try to answer. Okay. Expected versus reality. Yeah. Yes, yes. Who finds the defect is the tester finds the defect. Yes, correct, correct. Okay. So now what it is, that when a defect is raised, we called it as new. Means a new defect is raised. Of course, no. Of course, new ही है ना, मतलब हमने defect raise किया that I am not able to, the drop down is not working. I cannot say not working as expected. You can't write this kind of defect. You need to be little precise that the drop down value is not displaying. देयर कुड बी मे बी 5 ड्रॉप डाउन वैल्यूज, ऐसे करके 5 ड्रॉप डाउन की वैल्यूज होंगी आपकी बीआरडी में, लेकिन सिर्फ 4 वैल्यूज डिस्प्ले हो रहा है. देन यू नीड टू राइट दैट दिस वैल्यू इज नॉट डिस्प्लेइंग इन ड्रॉप डाउन, दिस वैल्यू इज मिसिंग इन द ड्रॉप डाउन. व्हाट शुड योर डिफेक्ट आईडी बी? दैट द वैल्यू ऑफ दिस is missing in the drop down. The value of this is missing in the drop down. We need to mention this. Now this will be a defect name and defect ID. Generally 90% of the companies allow you to raise a defect through the tool. Now you have said this, that the drop down of this value is missing, and then you say plus. Again the tool will allow you a plus in the defect section, which will create a new defect for you. Now in there will be something called as defect description, wherein you mention all the details of the defect. Means that, okay, what you did, you went here, you clicked here, and then it what happened, you need to write all the steps elaborately, meaning that you need to elaborate all the steps in that you did this, these all following steps, and in spite of doing all these following steps, this is the error that I'm getting. And then you also need to write expected behavior is this, that the 5 values of the drop down should be displayed, and you need to write in the below actual behavior is this, actual result is this, that only 4 is getting displayed. Now it gets assigned. Now when new it happens, it goes to the developer, because you will assign it with the name. You know the name, that okay, these are the developers who are working in my team. So you will assign to that developer, and developer will get a notification that so and so defect has come into my plate. Now what will developer do? Developer will read the defect. Now the developer will say, oh yeah, it is a valid defect. This is, he will also go and he will see what steps you have written to reproduce. What he will see, that what defect steps you have written to reproduce. What he will do is, he will go and try to reproduce by himself. He will go and try to reproduce by himself. Now when he tries to reproduce it and he gets the same result, then he says that it is a valid defect, and he agrees to fix it. Now the status, this is the life cycle of a defect, guys. So at every point or at every stage, the statuses of a defect gets changed. When first you raise it, it becomes new. When it is assigned to a developer, it gets assigned. Now when the developer tries to accept the defect and says yes, it is a defect, it goes into the status of what? It is goes into the status of in progress or development or something like that. Okay, or it can, even if the developer has said it is fixed, then it goes into the fixed. Once it is fixed, it will go into the status of deployed. Deployed means user has, developer has said that it is now available for you to retest. Sometimes it can be deployed, or sometimes it can be retest. Retest means it is now on the tester's plate. Retest means what? Now it is in the tester's plate. Okay, now the tester will say that, okay, fine, now the defect is tested. So there will be two things. One will be reopened, another will be closed. If it is reopened, meaning what? When it is reopened means what? That the defect is not yet fixed and there is still a discrepancy between the expected and the actual. So the developer needs to look at it again, fix it again, and do the same cycle. Do the same cycle. And if the defect is now working as expected, the tester will close it. What will the tester do? The tester will close the defect. Tester will close the defect. This is a normal cycle of a defect, wherein It is a simple, pretty simple. That tester raises the defect, developer fixes it, tester again retests it, the defect is fixed, and the tester closes it. It is simple. But then there could be a variation to it. That defect is not valid, it is not correct, the defect is not valid, developer is not able to reproduce it, and so on. So these are also the statuses of the defect. What are these are also the statuses of the defect. All right, guys. So in that case, he can reject the defect. As soon as I assign it, if he finds that the defect is not valid at this stage, at this stage, when at this stage it is up to him that he says fix or he says rejected. Because why? It is not reproducible, or it is not a defect. Basically, the functionality is like that only. You don't know to how to test. He can say this. Or the defect has already been raised. We already have raised a defect for this issue, and this is a duplicate defect. So for whatsoever reason, developers have the rights to reject a defect, citing the reason. They need to mention the reason why the defect is getting rejected. You reject the defect, and now the defect goes into the status of rejected, and now done, the story is over. So one is the defect is closed, the story is over. The other, the defect is rejected, the story is closed, or the cancel. Those we can, okay. The now the third is that there is something called as deferred. There is something called as deferred, which generally people ask in the interview, that have you heard about a deferred defect? That have you heard? Anybody can answer what is a deferred defect? Anybody can answer what is a deferred defect? What is a deferred defect? If anybody has any answer to this. Yes, postpone. Yes, there could be a case that it is postponed. And what else? All right. So let me explain the meaning of deferred. Now, what happens is, suppose you have raised a defect. Fine, you have raised a defect. Developers looks at the defect, and he finds that, okay, this could be a defect, but this is more of a requirement issue. This is more of a requirement issue, meaning that this defect could lead to a raising a new requirement, or to raising altogether a new functionality, or the amount of work that is required to fix this defect is as good as developing a new functionality. In that case, he will come back to the team, or to the business analyst, or to the customer, saying that fine, the testing team has raised this defect, but since the fix of this defect is more or less a change in a requirement, or this will trigger a CR, which is a requirement change. So hence you say, what do you want? This will require enough effort and enough time. So now you say, what do you want to do? So now the business does his analysis and says that it is not so critical. It is not so critical. We already have many more defects to fix. Let us park it for the next release. In that case, the defect will be deferred. Okay, the defect will be what? The defect will be deferred. So usually the questions get answered is, in what cases a defect will be deferred? How do you decide that a defect should be deferred? So the decision is not entirely the tester's decision to defer a defect. Tester's work is to identify a defect. The work of tester is to identify a defect and put it across. Now, to get it fixed or to not get it fixed, to get it fixed will be, of course, the tester's choice that, okay, you want, please fix it. But then for the defects which are way too expensive to fix, or which are going to take a lot of effort and time, that needs discussion basically. And at times that discussion leads to a deferred defect. That discussion leads to a deferred defect. Is it understood? Is it clear that how and why do you say a defect deferred? And in next release, that deferred defect will become a requirement and come. Okay, it will become a requirement and come in the next release. Does this make sense, guys? Yes. Can does this make sense? That have you understood what does a defect deferred means? Yes, it makes sense, right? Very good. So now we have understood the cycle of a defect. Now there could be cases wherein you have to say cancel the defect. Now what as a tester, you know what? Our intention should be that we get a very few rejected defects. There could not be a case that no defects are rejected. That is fine for a defect to get rejected. That's okay. But then the percentage of the rejection of defect should be less. You know why? Because if your defect gets on rejecting, if your defect gets on rejecting, it means that the tester does not understand how to test and what to test. That is why the defects are getting rejected, and it will hamper your metrics. Okay, it will hamper your metrics. Hence, it is important that the defects do not get rejected many times. One time, couple of times is fine, but we cannot have defects getting on rejected and rejected. Okay? And this is a very defect life cycle. Defect management is very important in testing, whether you are into automation testing, whether you are into manual testing, whether you are into a performance testing. Defect management is same across defect management is same across the testing, and you need to get that understood very well. And while raising a defect, defect name, defect descriptions, expected results, actual results, environment. Environment is also very mandatory to mention that in what environment did you test? Did you test in SIT? Did you test in UAT? And I mean, the point that I'm trying to explain is you put as much details as you can while raising a defect. And of course, the screenshots that see this should happen and this is happening. A screenshot and it will be very easy for the developer to have a look at your screenshots and fix the defect soon. Resolution time will be decreased while fixing a defect when you provide a lot of information and lot of valid information. Okay? Does it make sense, guys? Does it make sense, the defect management? Yes. All right. All right. So I think I think the defect management is also done. The defect management, the test case documentation is done. Defect management is done. Important thing we are going to cover is the testing techniques. I think the screen stopped sharing. Okay, no, the screen is sharing. Perfect. Yes. So we are going to see this one. This is the testing techniques that we are going to study, and then we are going to study test closure, then we are going to study best practices in testing, and then of course the database and anything else. And if any one of you has any particular thing in mind that ma'am we want you to please take this, please let me know in advance. If it is doable, I will try to include in our syllabus. Ma'am, can I get a live demo for this? So guys, the live demo or the live hands-on are there in our advanced testing classes. advanced testing classes we have, wherein you have those hands-on experience, uh, wherein you will have a project wherein you will have to go through the BRD and do a hands-on testing and recreate defects and so on. Basically, as good as you're working in a project. So you will have that thing. And yes, so the advanced testing classes are already started. It started yesterday on Monday, and it is already going on. So if we have just done one class, so yesterday was the first class. So if anybody is interested, please ping me, and then we can join that. You can join that if you're interested in doing that class. Okay, so the curriculum, ma'am, was the yes. So ping me on this. So the curriculum of that is this entire hands-on practices plus the automation testing hands-on and plus the SQL testing. Okay, so that is there in the advanced testing class. Okay. Yeah. So yes. So we just started the batch. So batches keep on going. We don't include more than 4 to 5 candidates per batch. Max is the size is the 4, because we don't want people to come up and then people and then they get confused that ma'am, I cannot understand this. So we do not put a lot of candidates in that. Only 4 people at one batch is what I do, and I only take that classes every day. Okay. Yeah, so the advanced is chargeable. Someone asked, ma'am, is that advanced classes are not free? They are a paid courses, which because that's a 2 months duration, wherein you're going to learn manual, automation, SQL, and plus hands-on. So that's not free classes. Okay. Yeah. Anything else that you want me to, you want guys to ask? I'm there here for 2 minutes, and then probably we say bye-bye to each other, but then I'm here for another 2 minutes. Tell me if you have any other questions. Ma'am, do you also take soft skills? Yes. Yes, we also have our soft skill classes, which will focus on your communication, interview preparations, and personality development and resume building as well. Yes. Yes. So that's basically 4 things are covered in that. Yeah, that's also there. Skills. Yeah. I've just pasted what all is covered in the soft skill classes in case that's a 3-week class. Yeah. For what? Fees for what? For the soft skills you're asking, or for the testing one? For any queries, ping me on this number. Yeah. Okay. So ping me on the number, and I will let you know the syllabus and the fees as well. Okay. All right, guys. So I would like to say thank you for attending the class. I hope it's adding value. You are understanding the concepts. Just try to build on and focus on the concepts. And I would like to take a leave now and wish you a very nice rest of the evening. And take care. And we see each other tomorrow. Bye bye.